Hi, I'm Shannon Watkins with the James G. Martin Center for Academic Renewal. Do North Carolina students have freedom of speech? That question was asked 8 years ago in a report that examined campus speech codes at North Carolina's colleges and universities. The results were bleak, with many campuses having policies that either substantially or partially restricted free speech. Now, 8 years later, the Martin Center and the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education decided to revisit the same question in a new report. I'm here today with one of the report's authors, Jenna Robinson. Jenna has been with the Martin Center since 2007 and has been its president since 2015. Jenna, tell me a little bit about this report.
So we did the report in conjunction with the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, FIRE, and they've been looking at this issue for a long time, free speech on campus, and we used their rating system to grade universities in North Carolina, both public and private ones. And the way their rating system works is that they have 3 levels. A green light means that all of the policies that campuses have are pretty protective of free speech. A yellow light means that there are some policies that either could be interpreted as curtailing speech or do curtail speech in some way, but not a really substantive way. And the third rating is a red light, and that means that there are clear and substantial restrictions for speech on campus. And so what we did is just with FIRE, we looked at universities across the state and gave them grades, and we found that most schools have either yellow or red light ratings, but now there are 8 that have green light ratings. And so it was a mixed bag, but I think it was important to show exactly where North Carolina is on that metric.
Can you give me a few examples of the kinds of speech restrictions in places at red light schools?
Right, so one of my favorites is at Davidson, and when I say favorite, I mean it's just the most laughable, in that at Davidson they ban things like innuendo or teasing or joking or inquiring about dating. And so to me that makes it seem like you can't even ask someone on a date without potentially running afoul of their speech codes. And another one that I think was particularly egregious but has since been done away with was at UNC Greensboro. They used to have what's called a free speech zone, and that means that that's the only place on campus where free speech is allowed. And at UNCG, the free speech zone was next to the bus stop near the highway, which obviously isn't really conducive if a student group is trying to have a table or recruit members or pass out constitutions. That's not a very hospitable place. And so those are the kind of things that will earn a school a red light rating.
Very interesting. Has North Carolina made progress since the last time you reported on this topic?
Absolutely. North Carolina has made a lot of progress. When we reported on this in 2010, there were no schools in the entire state that had a green light rating. Now we have 8 schools, 7 public and 1 private, that have a green light rating, and that's a wonderful place to be. North Carolina is now the nation's leader in the number of green light schools, and I think that that's something that we can be very proud of. North Carolina has taken huge steps, one of which was recent legislation, and others have just been schools making steps and progress on their own towards being more accepting of free speech.
Oh, that's great news. Are there any schools that have done a particularly good job protecting free speech on campus?
Absolutely. I have to hold up UNC Chapel Hill as the leader on this issue. They were the first school in North Carolina to receive a green light from FIRE, and they have since then, the faculty have adopted what are called the Chicago principles. And the Chicago principles go one step further than just purging policies of problematic speech codes. It is also an embrace, at least on paper, of the concept of free speech and why free speech is so important, especially on a campus. It's a statement saying that inquiry is important, discussion is important. These are things that are fundamental to what higher education is and what higher education does. And the faculty adopting that on UNC's campus, I think it just shows that they're supportive of free speech. They want to be supportive of free speech. That doesn't mean that they're always going to be perfect or they're always going to get it right. but it shows a commitment that so far other schools have not made. Actually, I stand correct. I'm going to correct myself. Winston-Salem State University has also, the faculty have adopted that, but they haven't improved their speech codes. And so they've tried, but they haven't gotten as far as UNC Chapel Hill.
And what are some of the problems that you still see?
Well, obviously there are only 8 schools that have green lights in North Carolina, and so that means that there are a very large number that still have red lights or yellow lights. In fact, we found in our report that 3 schools went backward. They had yellow and now they have red. And so there is still a lot of work to be done. It is always especially problematic for me that my own alma mater, NC State, has not yet cleaned up one remaining speech code, one small policy that's preventing them from moving from a yellow light to a green light. So I'd really like to see that happen. I'd like the remainder of the UNC system schools to go to green lights. Last year we had a bill passed, Bill 527, saying that free speech on campus in our public universities was going to be protected. There wouldn't be any more unconstitutional speech codes, and it was protected, at the state level, at the legislative level. And so that really is instruction to those schools that they do need to clean up their speech codes, and still we're waiting on about half of them to do so. And I think they will, it's coming, but I'll be very, very excited when we finally get there.
What can students do if their First Amendment rights are curtailed on campus?
So I think the first thing that students should do is to know what the speech codes on their campus are. And they can find that out in our report, or they can find that out on FIRE's website. And they can, in fact, if they go to FIRE's website, they can find the specific speech codes that FIRE thinks are problematic. And so that's step 1. Step 2 is to document everything. If a student or a student group has any kind of interaction with administration or with faculty that they think is a problem, that they think is curtailing their rights, they need to get everything written down, make sure that they really know what their story is, and just document it so that they can go back and look at the facts. And the third thing they can do is they can get in touch with the Foundation for Individual Rights and Education or with the Alliance Defending Freedom, both of which take up First Amendment cases and will defend students against their administrations when it's a question of First Amendment rights.
What do you hope to see in the future for campus free speech?
The next thing I'd like to see, in addition to more green lights here in North Carolina, is I would like to see other states follow North Carolina's lead, adopt state provisions protecting free speech, so that public universities are forced to get rid of their unconstitutional speech codes. I think that would be a huge step forward, is if more states did what North Carolina has already done, so that the next time we're talking about free speech on campus, we can talk about not just North Carolina as a leader, but public universities as a leader. Because I think public universities are in this important position where they are supported by tax dollars. They educate the majority of students in our country, and this is an opportunity for them to show what free speech can give to campuses, and the inquiry and the excitement and the academic value that is provided by free speech on campus. And so that's what I'd really like to see in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jenna.
Thanks, Shannon.
You can find a link to the report in the description below. It's also available on the Martin Center's website. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.